how do you identify true love? Well, first of all, it's totally possible to identify it and not obtain it. Just like it's very possible to know what a lot of money looks like, but not necessarily strike the jackpot. You could know what authentic gold looks like. You could know how to tell if it's real or not, and yet you could also not have any in your possession. So this isn't about telling you how to obtain true love, but it is a relevant thought on how to know if it's true love. I would say that there's 3 different kinds of admiration that we can have. There's that sense of finding someone that's perfect. They just seem like they have got it all together. They're everything you could possibly hope for. They're just absolutely wonderful. And that's not true love, because nobody's perfect. So if you find a relationship, or you behold an individual, and you think to yourself, this person's perfect, they check all the boxes, you're going to be disappointed even if you earn their romance, because eventually that bubble will burst, that honeymoon period will be over, and you're going to realize that person you put on a pedestal and you thought they're perfect, you'll discover they're not perfect, they're a human being. And then, because of your unreasonable expectations, you will be disappointed and let down, and probably, if it does go anywhere, both of you will mutually disappoint each other, because you can't stand up to the expectation of perfection in an imperfect world. Someone once said, do not let the perfect become the enemy of the good. And I think that's a good thing to remember, because quite often we do put people on pedestals. We expect that they're going to live up to this standard, which no human being could live up to. And then when we see the truth, we're shocked. So there's that. Then, of course, there's the relationships where you think to yourself, this person has some problems, but they'll change. And maybe that's just a once-off. Sure, they have a terrible attitude in this one particular situation, but, that's just that one situation. It's not going to be that way all the time. We expect that people will change. When the first thing you see is a red flag, but you ignore the red flag and you think to yourself, well, this person, they will, they'll change. Well, they don't, because people don't change as much as you think they do. Just to give you an example, in my own personal life, when I was a child, when I was a teenager, I enjoyed playing city building games. I enjoyed playing adventure games. I enjoyed playing base building games. And guess what kind of games I like to play today? I basically like to play the modern versions of exactly the same things that I was playing when I was a child and a teenager. You see, the tastes, the interests, the fundamental character that I had has never really changed over all of the years. The way those things manifest themselves might change, but my character, my disposition, it didn't change. You see, people don't fundamentally, foundationally change their identities. And they certainly don't do it to impress or satisfy a romantic relationship. Now, people can be enamored of a way of life. Just like I could change my behaviors because I'm in the presence of someone important and I want to make them feel like I am at their level. You might do that for your boss, right? He's all business. Therefore, when he's there, you're all business. But that's not sustainable. At some point, your true nature is going to be laid bare in any relationship. And if you build on a lie, trying to impress people, at some point you're going to get tired of playing the part. You're going to be tired of acting. And then you're just going to say, well, to heck with it. I'm just going to be my true self. And that true self is going to not necessarily align with the expectations of others. Now, it's good to be authentic. It's good to be true to yourself. But what about when we look at other people, especially in potential relationships that we enter into, and we think to ourselves, okay, this person is doing the right thing. This person is trying to change for me. Well, that's fine. Maybe they are, but they aren't going to change forever, because ultimately a person's base nature is going to come to light. That's going to be what ultimately is dominant, and that's going to ultimately define the course of that relationship. So maybe the number one problem is thinking people are going to be perfect. Number two problem is thinking that imperfect people are going to change, or that you are going to be able to overlook foundational flaws in a person's character as time goes on. So if you see a red flag, you need to treat that as a red flag up front. Don't try to ignore red flags, thinking that they're going to go away, thinking that despite the fact that you don't have any good fruit being born right now, there will be good fruit in the future. Good trees do not bear bad fruit. So that leads us to the final point here, and that is, what is the formula for a healthy relationship material? And that is, in my opinion, finding that rare balance where a person may seem perfect to you, but you also can very easily see that they are not perfect, and they do have those human flaws. They have a nature that is flawed, that is damaged, that is sometimes obnoxious, sometimes painfully insufficient, and yet also on a foundational level, you value the strengths of their character more than you are turned off by the flaws of their personality. It's loving someone for their good and their bad, and understanding that they aren't going to change. They're always going to have the same foundational weaknesses, tendencies, behavioral traits, and to also not be offended by that, to not feel like you would need them to change in any way to be desirable. That you would love them and accept them unconditionally, even if they never change at all, and you'd still be able to feel like they are, at least in your eyes, perfect. But you also are not blind to the fact that, technically speaking, they are very far from perfect. And we see this a lot in the love a parent would have for a child. You might roll your eyes at what your child does. You might think that they're completely full of it, but you're still going to keep a light on in the window for them. You're still going to do what you can to take care of them, to keep them safe. You would still sacrifice for them. The same thing is true in a romantic relationship that is valuable, that is meaningful. You might be frustrated sometimes by something your spouse does or your loved ones do, but you still would never for a minute feel like they aren't worth bearing and dealing with and forgiving repeatedly and endlessly. It's to see someone as imperfect and also perfect all at the same time. Perfect for you, but not perfect overall. And to have a sense that despite all of those imperfections, despite the fact that they won't ever change, to still believe that it's 100% worth it. Not because you convince yourself it's worth it. Not because you put blinders on to the red flags. Not because there aren't any, but because you've seen the entire picture, and for better or worse, you like what you see. And if you find that, the test of time will prove whether that's true or not. Because if you truly love someone, you will love them as the years pass. There will never be a time when you say, well, I did love them, but that time has passed, and I do not love them anymore. Now, sometimes people are loved in our memories. Sometimes they are loved in the present moment. Sometimes we share our lives with them. Sometimes we just share a part of our path with them, and then they continue to be loved in our memories as we cherish them when our paths lead apart. But love is not something which can be repudiated or laid aside, canceled, or thrown out just because something didn't go your way. People say this about dogs, they say it about marriages, they say it about children, and it's true in all of these cases that if you just throw something out and you want to take your memories and just toss them in the trash bin because they stop being convenient to you, that's not love. You can always tell true love because it endures. So, I remember looking at the logo of Northern Trust Bank many years ago, downtown Seattle. There was a metal fence. There was a ATM machine there. I was young. I just remember seeing it, and I'll never forget the logo. It was an anchor with a rope filigree around it and the motto, principles that endure. And I thought to myself, that's a really nice logo. Well, in 2008, there was a stock market crash. There was a crisis, and a lot of banks went under or experienced a lot of turbulence. And while many people were taking their money out of major banks because they were afraid about whether those institutions could be trusted, people were lining up to put their money in to Northern Trust Bank, because Northern Trust is a bank which does not do risky lending, and they do not have relationships with casual small accounts. If you want to open an account there, you probably aren't even going to walk through the door with less than $25,000. So Northern Trust Bank has earned this reputation of being trustworthy, especially when times are uncertain. And so in any relationship, it's important to realize that sometimes there will be adversity. There will be times of doubt, and a good relationship will gain value in times of adversity. A bad one will be proven for what sort it is. So when you look at your life's darkest moments, bleakest moments, when you look at the challenges before you, what and who come to mind as things you would hope for in those moments of doubt and uncertainty? Those are the sort of thing that you should continue to invest your time and your faith and your effort into. With that sense, as Ecclesiastes has said, cast thy bread upon the waters, for it shall return to you after many days. Sometimes it's good to hold out for things which represent in our hearts principles that endure. As with all things, wherever your journey takes you, best of luck on it. And till next time, thank you for watching.